if they want to. Talk don't bother me. I want the whole wide world to know that I love you so.
And welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DeRienzo.
And I'm Miss Jo Marie Musi.
And we have a fascinating show, continuation of the program that we just had. We finished a half hour ago with Shannon Taylor on his show, The Conversation, and this is Let Them Talk. And our special guest, besides Shannon, is Paul DeRienzo Sr. And as I said earlier, can't you see the resemblance? My dad, and a lifelong New Yorker, and a person who's led a very interesting life. And we're here to continue our conversation. And we basically started out, as you can see, there's my dad on the streets of Brooklyn.
On Adelphi Street.
Adelphi Street in particular, in Brooklyn, in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn.
Adelphi Robins.
Yep, there is with his stick ball.
Ready to hit me in the head.
Right?
Softball
Bat, softball stick, ready to play with his team in the streets, in the parks, the schoolyards of Brooklyn, and a familiar story, although we're here in Manhattan. But and my dad, of course, was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. So Dad and I, we've all been discussing, we talked about Dad's education in the last half hour in Brooklyn in the public school system, the New York City public school system, and his interest in engineering, his interest in physics and in science, and how he went on to work summer jobs in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, living down the street, as you can see from the photograph behind us, from the Brooklyn Navy Yard during World War II, and then to go to Brooklyn Polytechnic University, and there to study chemical engineering, get his degree in chemical engineering, and then we sort of left at the point when Dad was going out into the world and starting to build his career, and it was a very interesting story we left off with. So I wanted to pick up by talking about that, and now, of course, I have to remember the things that I said we shouldn't talk about during the break in between.
Yeah, you kept stopping me at every point. He didn't want us to talk.
Every time we'd get started,
yes, right. But
well, we're going to go to the 1950s.
Right, we're going to start in the 1950s, Dad, and tell us about how you started your career as an engineer, ultimately becoming chief engineer and vice president of a large engineering company.
Well, as I said, we started at the Materials Laboratory in Brooklyn. I then went to Curtiss Wright Corporation in New Jersey. They made airplane engines, jet engines, and reciprocating engines. And they needed technology transfer, which we had to offer on the precision casting that we had been developing at the Materials Laboratory.
And we talked about that earlier. That was actually technology that had been captured in Germany and brought to the United States,
yes,
which then you were working to perfect and to learn here in the United States. So there was a technology transfer back to here.
And that would be used to make certain engine parts, impellers and things like that, that were otherwise very difficult to machine from solid pieces of metal. In any event, so we went through a period of career in precision casting, making test engine blades for test engines that they were developing and the likes of that on a pilot plant basis. Mm-hmm. Eventually into all kinds of what we call chipless machining techniques, in which to avoid wasting and metal, so to speak, but try to get to the final product form with minimal of raw material to start with. What we call the rotary forging, where the part was actually hammered into shape from a piece of bar stock, hydro spinning, where sheet metal was made into cones instead of being machined from big blocks of metal, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So we were there for a number of years.
To take the 19th century out of machining technology.
Yes.
And bring it into the 20th century. Andrew Carnegie was a great guy, but you wanted to do things without 40-story, 15-ton presses and things
It was all an effort to
I just read a book about Andrew Carnegie.
to reduce the cost and the time for making very complex parts. we got to the point that the company was flourishing. They were making the J51, I believe, it was a Sapphire engine that they had taken from the British, and they were using it in our jet planes that were being used in the Korean War. They were making what they called the turbo compound engine, which was a reciprocating engine that uniquely designed with the small turbines that we cast the precision blades for, that would give it extra power and consume less fuel and travel quicker. It was probably the fastest reciprocating engine in Super Connie, the DC-7 were examples of the planes that used it.
Do we still make the best engines?
I don't know. I'm not in that business anymore.
I like to think we do.
At that time, the United States did. I think the United States is pretty advanced technologically still, although maybe we don't sell as many of the things, and other countries can make them as well, too.
Well, I can tell you firsthand that Colonel Rickenbacker, who headed Eastern Airlines, was unhappy with the quality of some of our engines, and he made it clear to them at a meeting one day that we became privy to subsequent to his visit. And he said, you either shape up and improve so that we keep our airplanes in the air and not on the ground fixing the engines. So it's, whenever you develop a new product, you go through a learning stage, you like it or not, but quality is essential to the proper design and function. All right,
I remember Eastern Airlines.
Okay.
I used to fly Eastern Airlines.
Well,
where are
to
they?
make a long story short, Curtiss Wright was in a competition with, oh my goodness,
Donald or
Pratt and Whitney, but now it's called something else, up in Connecticut, there in Hartford, Connecticut. It's the biggest engine company in the country.
Grumman.
Excuse me, folks. No. I'll think of it. Anyhow, they lost the competition. They lost the competition for a commercial jet engine to them, and they lost the competition for a ramjet to Boeing Marquardt. By the end of the week, a public announcement by the executive vice president of Curtiss Wright over the loudspeakers. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, we will be terminating so many people. I think it was like 10,000
Oh, wow.
people.
Wow.
Okay, now here I am, married 2 years with 3 kids, twins.
I was one of them.
And facing the prospect.
Twins, did you say?
Yeah, following Paul.
Oh, my
There's
brothers
some
are
boys,
twins.
yeah.
And faced with the prospect of hey, no job, and where do I go? And biting my nails, and so not unlike the situation many people feel today. So I'm very empathetic of the lot they face, of the problems.
Which is worse, today or then?
Well, when you're told as dramatically as that you have a few days before you're out of a job. I mean, we didn't have the benefits that you have today. Didn't have the government participation that you have today.
Oh, you mean like unemployment insurance?
Or Medicare and then stuff like that, or Medicaid and the likes like that. So yeah, that was pretty serious. You can determine for yourself which is worse. I felt like it was the end of the world. But as fate would have it, I was one of the ones that was kept. And so the next week, Monday morning, I walk into this plant. Now this plant was a cavern. It was blocks wide by blocks long. And hubbub of activities, spinning wheels, machines, welders, you name it, all was gone. I had people walking all over. I go in there, and it is a morgue. I'm walking from one end of